If you've been paying attention to the gaming industry, you know it's been getting ugly. I mean, the characters coming out for every console system nowadays. I'm talking about Xbox and PS5 specifically, where we're getting characters from obscene origins that gamers are looking at thinking, who designed this? And I think this is the thing gamers have been talking about online. And I saw a post come out and say, hey, who's the ugliest PS5 character out there today? And I think it's kind of pertinent because you can actually come up with a list of a large array of characters that are prominent that makes sense for this. And I think this is the thing we've been seeing in the gaming industry these past few years, kind of this degradation for the characters and styles for a lot of these games coming out nowadays are just extremely lacking. And that's why you can come up with giant walls of characters that are aesthetically unpleasing to look at. But which has the worst set of characters? Because when I think about Xbox and PS5, they both have their large set of disgustingly unappealing character designs. And of course, online, people were talking about the females in particular. So we're going to look at the females in particular because that was a question that was posed. And I think this is more of a problem on that side than the male side, because a lot of the male characters that we do see are always kind of in a Leon Kennedy top tier shape. It seems like the degradation of character aesthetics doesn't go on to the male side, mainly only on the female side. That's why we can have this gigantic collage of ugly female characters, because it seems like something has changed in the gaming industry, where the gaming industry is now trying to make all female characters look unappealing and unattractive. And gamers are now just coming out and ranking them. And the fact that you can make a tournament contest of the ugliest female characters within the last 5 years, it makes sense that something wrong is happening in the gaming industry. And you can see it with the promotional materials coming out right now, where a lot of the promotional materials for a lot of these games are showing the worst of their characters in the most unappealing light and style. And I think this is something consistent in the gaming industry. And you can see this with PS5 in particular, with their most recent games, specifically Ghost of Tsushima, where the character is pretty normal and basic in an aesthetic sense, but a lot of people's expectations were kind of let down with this game in general. So when you have a character that is just not that amazing or dominant in its appearance, it's going to bring down the rest of the game. I think that's what Ghost of Tsushima suffered. They had just a plain, basic looking person, and the game didn't call for a great personality from that person. So when you don't have a personality, you don't have great aesthetics as well, that's just going to bring down the game. And I think this is what we commonly see with a lot of PS5 games coming out there. We see a common look, which isn't too bad, but with a sense of no personality or agency that is interesting to the game player base. It just makes a character that is vapid and unappealing. And I think this is what we got from Ghost of Tsushima Atsu. We got a character that was just empty to the gamer and player base, and you didn't even make them look in a way where they felt like they were a presence that was exuding outside of the screen. No one got that. We just got someone that was basically trying their best to play a character that they don't even represent. And of course, we can go back to Abby. Abby is a quintessential terrible character that we saw in gaming, mostly based on their position that they've been put in by the characters and the writers, because she's the person that killed Joel, the titular character in The Last of Us, the game character that you played the most in The Last of Us 1. So when you're playing the person that killed them and the reason is not that interesting or vague and you're altering facts, people are going to hate your character. And I think on top of that, you have the character design of trying to make them manly and more of a non-binary looking body and physique. So gamers are looking at this character that they already hate, and you're giving them a physique and appeal that is just not interesting to the large swath of the gamer base. And I know people are going to say, hey, a lot of females may have liked it. And I'm like, that's not the large swath of the gamer base. We know we saw studies saying 50% of gamers are female. That is people playing Fruit Ninja or Zombies vs. Plants. We're talking about console gamers. When you look at console gamers, it's over 85% are male. And you're making a game character that is 100% masculine looking and they killed your favorite character. It's just not going to be a winning combination. I think the aesthetics were different. Gamers will still hate this character, but they will be more inclined to give the character sort of a chance. And I don't think that's the thing that we're seeing right now with a lot of the properties that are doing this kind of uglification process of the characters. They kind of unite terrible looks with terrible personalities, which is just not a good combination of things. And it just shows that the people that are making these games really don't have an understanding of how to attract and appeal the fan base. And we could go on to Horizon Zero Dawn, which was the biggest downgrade of a character design. If you saw Horizon Zero Dawn, the first look of Aloy, she looked completely different. She looked more thin, more healthy and fit, and more feminine. And with the subsequent sequel, they changed her completely. They made her into kind of a chubby butch lesbian. And I'm like, okay, that is the angle that they're going for. We already saw it in the first one, but this was just them pushing at the forefront with her physical appearance as well. And I think combine that with already her kind of non-interesting personality. She wasn't annoying, but she wasn't that interesting, and you just give her this unappealing look, gamers are just gonna walk back. And I think that's the thing that gamers are seeing with a lot of these character designs that are coming out, where they can unite terrible personalities with unappealing looks. If you're gonna have an unappealing look, give them a great personality that we can like and strive for. And I think with Horizon Zero Dawn, I really did like Aloy in the first one, and I think that carried her to a certain extent into the second one, where I was like, I still like the original one, but this is a character I just don't even really like anymore, because you divorced them from that personality that I like in the past, because you wanted to transform them in this representative icon. And this is what we often see in the gaming industry, where things have to become representative icons. And this is a thing that we're seeing quintessentially with new games like Intergalactic, where things are about representation more than anything else. And that's what we see with future titles and games that have been coming out. We saw this especially with Spider-Man 2, where they changed the entire character of Mary Jane to be in line with their aesthetic pursuits of making things unattractive and unappealing, and of course masculine towards the feminine aspects of a lot of female characters. And they gave her this gigantic jaw. They removed a lot of her curves with her body. They tried to make her into something that wasn't the original character. And I think this is what we often see with a lot of the body transformations that are happening with PS5 games. The PS5 is obsessive of making these sort of games that really are stripping away the body characteristics and the personality characteristics that gamers actually enjoy. Someone that is actually endearing and lovable, not someone that is annoying, masculine, and more than anything, just not feminine in any sort of way. And I think this is what we often see with PS5 games. And I think the worst of them has to probably go to Concord. Concord was the biggest disaster for any console system out there, and it had all the traits that I just mentioned before. Terrible personalities, terrible physiques, and more than anything, trying to pander to these representative icons that are focused on bringing in these progressive ideas to the forefront of the gaming world. And I think it failed because of that. And that's why I say it's pretty tough to say how bad these games are. It's pretty tough to say that PS5 is not pursuing more than anything to make games like this, because they made them consistently these past few years. So I think it makes sense people making a chart saying who are the ugliest and worst characters for the PS5, specifically female characters. And it kind of is bringing things to light that, yeah, this is something that has been a trend so long that you can easily make a list of characters within the last 5 to 6 years that look like this. And it's just showing that that is the modus operandi at most developers, specifically at PS5. And I know the competition has to be fierce because Xbox is doing the same with a lot of its characters. I think that's what we often see with the video gaming industry, where a lot of the character designs are being made because this is the philosophy that they want to pursue for a lot of the games that they're producing. And Xbox has the worst of them as well. We saw some recent trailers with these ugly character designs that kind of just off-put you, where they're actually putting face designs in the forefront, trying to push off anyone that is trying to engage with the negative male gaze that they want to avoid. And that is the thing that they want to avoid the most, where men are objectifying women. And that's why when you play Halo Infinite, a lot of the women just look like black lesbians, at least the black female characters, where you're just looking at some of the characters, you're thinking, okay, this is not being made, this is being made on purpose to push away the gamer and player base. And it becomes obvious when you look at some of the character models that did these designs in the past, where you look at the character models and you can see a healthy sense of glow, beauty, and femininity within these models. But when you see the translation onto the gaming audience screen, you see something completely different that is made to push the game player away. I think that is the thing gamers are noticing with a lot of the games coming out nowadays. And I think Xbox did a fantastic job of doing this with a lot of the games that they came out with. We saw this with Hellblade. We saw this with the Fable trailer. But I think with Xbox, there's still a healthy balance. Even when we have these new games coming out that are filled with these type of iconically terrible character designs, we still get a Ninja Gaiden 4 every once in a while that is bringing about cool character designs that we do like. So they still support games that are producing great character designs. I think we see that with the PlayStation as well, as they're producing great designs for a lot of characters. So it's not the sole focus for these games companies, but a lot of the games that are not following this property line of making characters ugly are usually coming from the East, Japan, Korea, and China. And it's just showing that both companies in the West have a focus that they want to produce for the Western demographic of gaming. We're only getting the good games from the East, and it kind of makes you see the competition of making the ugliest character and understanding that it's a real thing that's happening where you cannot avoid it in the West. And I think that is the thing that is at the forefront of the minds of gamers that now are purchasing games. They're thinking, should I get this game? Is it being made to be unappealing to me? And I think that's why there's a competition of rating these characters. And I think for me, the worst of these characters probably has to go back to Abby, because Abby completely destroyed the series that I liked and loved for a long time. It just made the game absolutely terrible, ruined an HBO show for that matter. It's just, its destruction is so powerful that it's unavoidable. And I think it's the quintessential form of just trying to make a character completely unappealing. I think between Abby and of course Ghost of Tsushima, since it's so recent, I think Ghost of Tsushima is the quintessential of just taking a character from a franchise that everyone loved and ripping every heart and soul thing that people loved about the first one and making something that is cheap and not interesting at all. And that's why I put Ghost of Tsushima, Atsu, and Abby next to each other. They just kind of ruined the franchise. And I think you can't really compare that to any of these new games that are coming out where they're just starting off a franchise bad and probably nipping it in the bud. But that's just my opinion on the situation. Maybe you disagree with me. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.